Welcome to the Head First Recruiting Roadmap podcast series. I'm your host, Brendan Sullivan. Today, I'm joined by Williams College softball head coach, Kris Herman. It's an honor, Coach, as it always is, to chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Brendan. I look forward to it.
Great. We're recording this in late July, so probably I'm estimating about a month before your players return to, or in some cases arrive on the campus in Williamstown for the first time. It's at the heart of the recruiting season for someone who works in a program like yours, and also a time when I imagine you aspire to find some of your own time to recharge your batteries and yourself during a busy summer. So I'm interested, how's the summer been, and what have you done to take care of yourself and get yourself ready for another campaign at Williams?
Summer's been great. I mean, there's no better place than Williamstown in the summer, although I think that actually heading into a little bit more downtime now in August. I do most of my recruiting travel and things in June into July, and for most everybody in softball, this is kind of the final weekend. But it's a great thing about living in a small town is you can do your job and take care of yourself at the same time. I'm not a fan of the phrase work-life balance. Work and life I don't think they need to be so distinct at all. But if I was to put a distinction, I would say is work-life alignment. So just being able to do all of the things you need to do and want to do, mostly at the same time.
And how grade your late July summer in Williamstown life alignment? It's where you want it to be.
Yeah, it's nothing like it. Today is actually a perfect day, about 72 and sunny. And I won't try to say it's like that all the time, but it is. As I just told you, I just got off the trails. I went for a quick hike this morning, and now here I'm in the office. And certainly, technology makes it pretty easy to do your job from a lot of different places. So, yeah, away we go.
I appreciate you returning from the trail to chat with us. Get to the academic recruiting process as it sort of has unfolded in 2024, and look forward to tapping some of your expertise and insights there. First, I wanted to ask you about a single Post-it note that appears on your Twitter/X feed, and it reads simply, in very neat penmanship, I believe in the power of a team. And I'm interested what that means to you.
I mean, it means everything. I mean, team, I'm sure in the Post-it note is capitalized, and I think that's an important consideration is capital T team encompasses all of the things, as they say, right? It encompasses our history and our tradition, our values, and the program stuff, but also encompasses each individual's journey to get here or to get to that team. We want them to bring all the best things that they have experienced and hope to experience, to bring their past and have their best present and creating a fun future. But we don't know how that's going to go, so we just try to show up every day. And if everybody does that, we're in business, and that's quite a powerful thing. So that's kind of the foundation of probably everything we'll talk about in the next little bit.
Kris, you've been a part of and have led some incredible teams. The accomplishments, the consistency over time is truly remarkable. You played at Tufts. You then coached at your alma mater for 16 years. After those 16 years, headed to Williams. 2025, next year, will be your 37th season at Williams. You reached the 500-win milestone at Williams just past spring. Posted a wonderful note that, of course, in your traditional way, thanked all of your assistant coaches, many of whom we've had the pleasure of meeting over the years. You reached the 800-win mark overall in your career, late April 2022. You're only the 15th Division III coach to hit that mark. You're currently 12th on that list. Truly amazing. 13 NESCAC championships, 18 NCAA appearances, including one just a couple months ago. I also know, having been fortunate to spend some time with you, that the words and the numbers only tell a little bit of the story, and there's a lot more to it. The people, the journey. Would love to hear in your words in a couple minutes how you view the journey that you've had over these years.
Well, we have a lot of sayings around here, but one of them is just we're so damn lucky, and I really feel that was something my father actually used to say all the time, and I kind of grew up with. And the team has adopted it, and it's really a truism for sure. But thanks for the kind words. I just want to clarify, it's my 37th year overall, not at Williams. So, but that's it's been amazing to coach at two great schools, and anyone who knows those institutions knows that the students who come through those places are unbelievable in a lot of different ways, and we've just had a lot of fun. And the winning is definitely a byproduct. It's something where we want to prepare to win, where it's not unimportant to us, but you can't win a championship in September or in January. So we just keep showing up for each other, and that makes it's a greater good situation. We just get after it.
On December 10th, 2021, you and I had lunch in Las Vegas, Nevada, with two of the teammates here at Head First that I treasure, Jenna Orlando and Max McKenna, who I've worked with for a number of years. Particularly memorable conversation, at least for us, I will note. The opportunity to connect with you, to get a peek behind the curtain of your program, your coaching philosophy, your approach to building culture, and more. And also because that evening you were inducted into the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association Hall of Fame, becoming one of fewer than 100 coaches to have that honor. At lunch that day, you may remember we spoke quite a bit about your approach to communication and relationship building with your players. And then that evening in your acceptance remarks, you shared some thoughts about the importance of coaching that you continue to seek for yourself. I'd love you to share a little bit with the players and families listening here, how you approach those elements of your job and your life.
Well, communication is everything, really. I do know you have to know what you care about and have some insight into what's important. And that does really matter, sort of the high level strategy, if you will, but you also have to prepare the tactics of how you're going to communicate with all of the people. And we're always trying to make sure everybody really understands what our program is all about, really at all times. So that means, people I work with here, obviously people on our softball staff, and strength and conditioning and athletic trainers, and all of those people. It includes alumni and parents of alumni who we still see come around quite a bit, and obviously recruits and their families. But at the core of it is the current people on our team. And so, as you know, I like to say team with a capital T. And here in our program, I include coaches and the people who are with us every day as being a part of that team. I think a player-only group is a really important group, so I'm not trying to hone in on that. But our team, day-to-day, how we show up and how we work together does include coaches. And so our individual relationship with everybody else on the team matters. And so we're constantly on a mission to figure out how to maximize the understanding of not just program values, but each other and how we operate. So it's worked really well for us. We spend a lot of time with kids before they come to Williams so that we know they're really going to like it, because that's the key. Not just like softball here, but college, have a great experience. So.
I remember being struck, Coach, by the intentionality with which you approached the building of the relationships and the cadence with each player. Could you share a little bit about how you approach that, building that individual player-coach relationship over time?
Sure. First of all, we're fortunate that for the most part, it starts when the kids are in high school, right? So when they're just starting to think about colleges. And then, we just talk a lot. We meet a lot. We have some things that are, structured formally, how kids are setting their own goals and working to become a better player, and more importantly, to figure out how they can help the team the most. And we also have, sit and have a cup of coffee, a proverbial cup of coffee, and get to know each other. And then, for my money, that's what practice is all about, doing things together, whether people say do hard things. I'm all for doing hard things, but even if it's not that hard, doing things together is what a team is. That's what teams do. They do things together with shared goals and with common language. And so with those two things, we can do whatever it is you need to do. So yeah, it's pretty structured, but it's not, we're not dotting every I and crossing every T in every conversation. Just the fact that we have those conversations are how we, I think, do communication here.
And you mentioned the assessment of recruits or potential additions to your program and making sure that they're going to be successful and happy there. What are the things that you do, you, Coach Herman, and your team during the recruiting process to assess that? How do you connect with the kids, connect with the families, deal with face-to-face issues to figure out how they're going to impact that culture and be impacted by it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an exact science, right? And there is no answer. I mean, every human is growing and changing, and things will be different for players and people as they move through their life. But and one thing I want to say, I think I would say this at the end, but maybe I'll say at the beginning, is like, I think there's quote unquote a place for everyone, but like that doesn't mean everybody gets what they want, right? Myself included. So it's not like, oh, I have this perfect ideal. I want these 4 players that have these exact skills and this temperament, and I'm going to find them and they're going to come to Williams, right? There's thousands and thousands of great players who are also great students who might be a good fit here. And maybe we never meet. Maybe they decide they don't like it. Maybe admissions doesn't like them as much as we had hoped. Or just this given year that they're in, it doesn't work out. So I think there's kind of a school of thought or a communication out there be like, it's going to work. Just keep working harder, right? And that's not how it works. Not how it works on the field, and it's not how it works in recruiting. So I think it's really important for players, especially parents too, to hear that, and coaches too, right? Is that, and if it's going to work, you have to do the work to see if it's going to work or not, right? So, we try to use travel ball coaches and high school coaches too. We use anybody out there who knows us and knows what we're all about to help us communicate that to the people in their circle. So I think of it as concentric circles. As we move outside, we can touch more and more people, and then, be at the field. That's what the kind of the thing to do is for us to be at the field and have people say like, oh, I've never heard of Williams. Let me learn about it. And then lots of conversation, just getting to know kids, figuring what they're all about, learning about their family, what they're interested in, just like anybody else you want to get to know, right? What are your hopes and dreams? And might Williamstown, Massachusetts be a good place for you to do that for a very short period of time, right? I mean, playing in college is kind of a holy grail, but it's also a really short 4 years and lots of things to be done after.
The concentric circles you reference, is there a normal order that it goes? Are you normally seeing a player physically on a field at a tournament that you like, or seeing their physical attributes, then sort of starting to expand that circle to see whether this is a young woman that's going to fit in the program, and then connecting? Or does it go in different orders depending on where you might cross paths with someone?
Yeah, all of the above, honestly. We here just get email. I mean, I get a lot of emails, right? We get emails from players being like, hey, I've done some research. William seems cool. And then we ask them for more information. That's kind of the standard, right? Like, fill out our prospect form, which you definitely have to do, just PSA. And then, we learn more about them that way. And then we maybe get on the phone, or we call their coach, or, we need to know something about who they are as a player and something about who they are as a student. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to move forward. So sometimes kids will send us video and a transcript and be like, here, this is who I am. What do you think? That's the first point of entry to our system. Sometimes we see them at the field. Sometimes a coach calls us. Sometimes I'll call coaches. I'm on the phone with coaches all the time. Who do you know? Who have you played? Who have you played against? Asking people at the field, recruiting coordinators, and so there's all sorts of different things. But the things that have to happen, right? That's the most important thing. I think people get stuck on the order. And that's probably why you're asking me this, is that the order is not that important. I, as a coach, need to know who you are and who you are as a student and who you are as a player. And then I can get to know you more deeply. So however that happens, what doesn't work for me, and there's so much variety of college programs out there. So I think pretty clear, I'm just speaking for me, but what doesn't work for me is, being BCC'd on a, some name your platform, messaging, email server, whatever it would be called. Be like, hey, dear coach, I love softball, right? Come see me play. Just not enough time to do that. Maybe some others can do that. But I will say, the reason I mention that is because sometimes it is actually completely random. Like, this is going to help people feel better about the system. Like, sometimes it is completely random. I'm out of field watching, player A play, and player B does a couple things that really catch my eye. And so then I want to learn more about both of them. Or, a teammate, we have kids in our team here now that only knew about Williams because a former teammate of theirs had come here. So there is a lot of, I think it's important for families and players to know that you can't control the whole thing. You just can't. So to answer your question, a lot of different ways to do it.
I'm interested in Williams. There's obviously a part of probably the country, or maybe the certain set of schools that every single human walking through the halls, of course, knows of Williams, and it's probably on the top 5 or 10 of their college list. And then I've heard you reference a couple times about folks not knowing about Williams. What's the rough balance there of the families or young ladies that you connect, those that have Williams in their sights since the time they could spell it, versus, hey, this is a whole new thing to even think about?
Almost everybody on our team is in the second pile. And that's because we do have these concentric circles of people who aren't at those, mostly East Coast, mostly wealthy institutions. And frankly, for some sports, that is the case, right? For softball, it's not the case. It's not generally where the players with the most experience are playing. They're not here just because winter.
What are the forces that are pushing you out beyond admissions office, your own desire to diversify and culture the team, better softball, further away from the snowstorms? What are the things that have proven to be the most important for you in terms of seeking the right game-changing human beings for your program?
We'll say, like, I don't always know they're going to be game changing, right? We're just trying to get the right people and who have some. We have I could name, probably 30 kids right now in the class of 2025 who would probably be great here. We just can't have them all. So there is no like gold star on your forehead thing that you're going to be great. I do think that our program and many programs like ours that have had enduring success, as you mentioned, like, people come in and they get better here. And it's not just because of the physical development training, is because of the sense of belonging and the capital T team stuff that allows people to really grow. So we're not necessarily needing the very best players that we see. But we go, I think kids who've played more are going to be better, whatever better may be. It's impossible to know potential, honestly. That doesn't mean I want kids to specialize when they're 10. But even just if you're only playing one season of softball in Orange County, California, you're playing more softball than somebody here in Berkshire County, Massachusetts. So we are happy to have kids, Northeast kids as well. We're not at all, we're open to talking to everybody and anybody, but we do most of our on-site recruiting in warm places.
Which absolutely makes sense. I'm interested whether you're from Berkshire County or his family's from Berkshire County or Orange County. Questions or curiosities that student athletes that you would recommend student athletes or families have that you don't see enough. The question that you think a student athlete or a family should be asking more in the recruiting process.
Probably going to be an unsatisfying answer, but the answer is, I don't know. What are you actually curious about? I think what all people don't do often enough is like stop and take a deep breath and be like, what am I curious about? Right? Because I want to know what you're curious about. All the standard stuff can be learned on the website, or, I guess I try to communicate outbound, like what our core values are and all that kind of stuff. So people should know that after they know anything about Williams. I mean, I will stop people in their tracks and be like, "That's a boring question. Don't ask that." So I don't want to, I don't want to cue people up. But I do think somebody who could say, "Well, I'm really curious about this." It could be like, "I thought I wanted to be an engineer. Can I do that at Williams?" Like that's not as easy to find on the website. There's mixed messages, right? We don't have a school of engineering, but you know, so that might be something you're actually curious about, or it could be like, wow, it seems like, you have a 200-foot fence all around. Like, why isn't it bigger? Or what, I don't know. That was a terrible example. But, I want to know what people are really curious about, because guess what? I want curious people, because curious people are going to be willing to ask themselves, like, how can I get better at this? How can I help the team more? How can I, get a hit right now? How can I make practice work better for me? How can I adjust my time management skills so I'm not like exhausted? Like, I want people to be curious in the future. And I mean, I ask a lot of those kind of questions. Like, that's me. So like, there's also a lot of like human, just in general, like just laws of attraction, right? Like what fires you up. So, yes. And, I still subscribe to that you shouldn't go to a college just for the coach business. But that's the answer to my question, to your question, is like, I don't know. What are you curious about?
First of all, totally satisfactory answer, above and beyond. And number two, I want you, if I ask you a boring question, I promise you call me out, and I will not edit it out of this recording. I promise. Speaking of curiosity, so hard, as you know, better than anyone, hard to go anywhere around softball recruiting, etc., without reading, hearing, scrolling through commitment proclamations, etc., from 16, 17, 18-year-old players that mark some sort of success or endpoint in the process. At Head First, we try to work to remind aspiring college student athletes that the decision or commitment is not the finish line. Of course, it's really just this first step in what could be an incredible, and as you reference, quick next chapter, quick next 4 years that are some of the best of your lives. And try to encourage sort of broader thinking around the conditions, the elements of a college experience, maybe the coach, maybe the level of play that will form a foundation for a successful 4 years. So as we sort of veer from the recruiting process a little bit, I'm curious about your program and what is the life of a Williams softball player? Paint the picture of the diversity and the happiness and the success and the challenges and the difficulty of playing softball at the level you're playing and excelling academically at one of the best schools in the world.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. I think there's a lot to be done here. There's a lot of opportunity to do even more. Like it's basically an infinite. It seems like you can do a million things. So the biggest challenge, I think, is like, okay, for all of us, it'd be like, what do I need to not say no to, or what, when do I need to close the books and go to bed is the easy one, but also, is there, I want to do this cool thing, but I can't do that right now. So, I mean, we do everything around our academics comes first here all the time. If there's a direct conflict between a class or like and a practice, which there never would be because of how we schedule, but let's say there was, then you just go to class, just go to class. The only conflicts we have are mostly in postseason or maybe one game a year when we're on the road to, we're the away team and we have to leave a few hours before the end of classes for the day. And in that case, like kids will know in like September 2nd that they're going to have to miss a class in April 20th or something. So it's pretty easy to figure out, but really supportive of each other. But at Williams, it's not the kind of place where the softball team just travels in a pack and they don't do other things. Our kids do tons of other things and have many relationships of all different kinds and close friends that are not on our team. I think that's part of what they really appreciate about Williams, while at the same time, the bonds within our team are really, really strong. So, we are here in a small town. There's lots of colleges in a small town where, if you have a good season or a good weekend, there'll be like people on the street that seem like random people, just to players and coaches alike, be like, great weekend. Like that was, so fun, or congratulations. And like everybody here is kind of in the same boat. So we just try to, we put our shoulders back and be like, okay, what's important now? And away we go. But we also don't have 4-hour practices, and like you have to lift and you have to come to practice, and like have to come to practice means, probably 3 hours from door to door at the end of the day. And we don't miss any classes or anything. So it's really easy to do all the things, including writing a thesis or like, having a cool internship or all of the above.
Needless to say that the type of young ladies that you recruit and are attracted to Williams have a lot of the motivation, work ethic, skill, creativity, built in and worked in over time. If you're a 16-year-old is listening to this and thinking about wanting to play at a place like yours, in a program like yours, aside from the obvious, do your homework, get to sleep, what advice do you give those families that maybe isn't as obvious as the stuff they've been hearing their whole life, to be able to prepare, not just to get to Williams or a school like it, but to be successful while they're there?
I think maybe similar to my earlier answer, like, I don't know. It's first of all different for everybody. I think it is very much related to the curiosity point we were speaking about earlier, and the creativity that you just mentioned is like, that is going to be different for everybody. What I do know is that the rest of the other players who have been here before and other students at Williams who have been here before will help you, because many kids come to places like Williams and think they're like, oh my gosh, everybody is so much smarter than me. I don't know if I can do this. It seems really, really hard. And it is hard, but like, you can do it basically, but you have to be able to have sort of the built in, like, okay, when I need to, I can put my shoulders back, and like, whether it's fake it till you make it or just realize you actually have done lots of hard things before. There's lots of support here, lots of support in the form of things like tutors and that, but also just in the form of professors who are like super excited to teach you. And of course, other students and coaches who are there to help. But I think it is being curious. And many students have had to take, like, I had to take all these APs, like I did this thing the way you're supposed to do it. I followed that roadmap. And now I really want to, explore art or, gender studies, or I liked math, but I've never done statistics or economics or what have you. So really branching out, and we don't pigeonhole kids in an academic track here either. So I guess I keep coming back to this idea of like, do all the things until you realize that you can't, and then pare it back from there.
And is that can that moment happen when they arrive at you, or is your advice potentially to sort of take a breath in are you seeing the high school, the overscheduled, over-traveled, overplayed high school student athlete that sort of hasn't had this moment and can have it when they arrive at a school like Williams? Or are you encouraging folks to try to arrive at that moment maybe before they get to your door?
Yes. I think, you can see a theme here, right? Is that, and I'm not trying to be obtuse. It's just like, I'm not sure. I don't want somebody to say like, oh, I thought I was supposed to do A, B, C, D, and now, but actually it turns out I'm supposed to do X, Y, Z, then J, right? So like, there is no supposed to. I think that in order to, admissions matters at places like this, right? So you do have to take a very rigorous course load. And that might mean not taking something that seems more interesting to you. So I'm not suggesting do whatever you want. I think you have to take, 5 hard classes every semester in high school, like, period. Like, you can't say, I'm done with Spanish now, I'm going to take fill in the blank with something, or study hall or something like that, right? You don't have to take Spanish, but you have to take something else that's a quote unquote, real class, or I call a major class. But I also think, like, if there's something that's intriguing to you, you should go and dip your toe in and see what you like. And that, I think the biggest thing that I believe about, I think kids are kind of wound too tight around, is like, I have to do all these other clubs. Like, you don't have to do everything. Do a couple of things and that you're passionate about. And if you're not passionate about anything else, that's also okay. I mean, like, I know lots of really cool 15, 16-year-olds who don't have a passion and are worried about it. I'm like, I wouldn't worry about it. and if softball's your passion, that's okay too. Just get after it. And sure, you want to serve your community. You want to be a great person in the classroom. That actually really matters to the admissions process, is your teacher recommendations. So many people say choose wisely. I'm not saying choose who writes it wisely, maybe, but also just be great so that whomever is writing it. So that's what makes the small colleges really great, is when you get here, you're going to be a class of 15 kids and all 15 of you are going to be excited to be there, which is really different from a lot of people's high school experience.
Division III softball, more specifically high academic Division III softball, your perspective is unique and at the top of the mountain for sure. You competed in the NESCAC, as I mentioned, at Tufts, coached in the same conference for 36 years. You and I have some common friends, certainly coaching at some amazing programs at some great schools. You might take my head off for this, but the NESCAC for Division III softball and the combination of academics and softball is the top of the heap. I'm interested in your view of things you might see changing, level of play, type of student athlete. Are there trends that you're seeing that are good, not so good? What's happening at the highest level of academic softball in D3? And what pitch do you make to young ladies who might wake up every day thinking about these big programs they see playing on ESPN, but the perfect fit for them might be somewhere else?
Yeah, great. I mean, everybody on our team thought they were going to be playing on TV at some point.
Everybody, yeah, you make that point. Everybody.
But they didn't think that when they were in 16U, right? Like, maybe, but they weren't thinking that by the time they got to 10th or 11th grade, because honestly, the cool thing is they stopped thinking that because they wanted to get a great education, not because they weren't good enough softball players. That I'd like to highlight that as well. We have lots of kids on our team and in our league and all around Division III, many players who could play on the teams that you're watching play on TV, no doubt. Just like anything else, right? There's a gradation of, I think the players who come play for the best teams are the ones, so academics aside for a moment, on the best teams are the ones who are like, I'm really good at this and I want to, maybe it's academics, or I don't want to go far from home and this is a perfect fit for me, or I do want to go far from home and this is the best place for me. And in the NESCAC, it is, because I want to do all sorts of really cool things academically. And it's not easy to do that at the top programs in Division I. And all Division I is not the same, so that's not a knock. But I think that the students who write to me and say, obviously not verbatim, but in so many words, I'm not that good at softball, but I really like it, and I'm really a great student, so Williams will be a good fit for me. They're wrong. So I shouldn't say just Williams, but at the very best. So if you can look at rankings and things it's a big commitment. And everybody here is a great student. So I think, and I know there's a lot of players out there like that, and that's not a knock against them. I just think many people think like, oh, I'm going to go D3 because it's so many great schools out there, and maybe I can play. And I think those people, everybody should do a lot of research on what the level of play is. And, look at, you can find a webcast of every college in the country. You can look at stats, you can look at, so just learn more about that. And I'm not sure, I'm diverged pretty far from the question by now, but I think that on both ends of the spectrum, right? Like you wanted to play on TV and now you want to be value academics. Doesn't mean you don't value softball anymore, right? And also like thinking about or learning more about the level of play at the various colleges. But yeah, we have an awesome league and there's so many great schools here. I do think there's a place for most people to contribute. It's just going to have to do some work to figure out where that is.
Before we wrap with the final recruiting question, I wanted to zoom out for just a minute. The softball landscape is filled with folks who've played with you or coached with you or coached against you who've inspired. I know many of them. I'm curious, Kris, what inspires you to do what you do at the energy level you bring every day?
And it's just so much fun. It's a lot of fun. I do. You asked earlier about I just really like being a part of a team. I use the word like "let's go team" in all sorts of places. You know, you and I are a team right here. Like playing golf or doing something like that's a team, and you have shared goals and common language, as I said before, and so that's inspirational. It's super inspirational. And along the way, I met and hung out with and enjoyed the company of so many really great people. And I think that would be if I was in any walk of life, there's great people everywhere. But yeah, and also the other big rock is like, let's get better. Like, how can we be better today than we were yesterday without it being like a grind. Yeah, you may also know that I'm against the word on the grind, or however people use that phrase, because that makes it sound like it's not that fun, and it's not fun every minute, obviously. But yeah, just showing up for each other and having people show up for me is that whole realm is inspirational to me.
Thank you for sharing that. To the high school players listening to this conversation who are dreaming of the possibilities of playing at the next level, pursuing this combination in some fashion of academics and softball, and the families who are loving them every step of the way all around this country in many cases to facilitate that dream, what final piece of advice would you have for them in their journey?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to say, like, it is actually really hard. So, like, if you're feeling frustrated, confused, and hope that me or you, Brendan, can help, like, great. Like, you should use all the resources you can, and it's still it's a really challenging process. So, I know that's not helpful, but I think sort of the theme is like figure out how you can communicate who you are and be your best self on the outside so that people can kind of pick up on that. That's the way all relationships get formed and, stay strong. And I think sort of shedding the idea that there's a perfect answer out there. I say the same thing to coaches. I say the same thing to myself, right? There's not a perfect player or a set of players out there for us. And so I think just keep working, obviously work on your craft, be good at your sport, figure out what you really like. I'm a big fan of working on your strengths as opposed to your weaknesses, and just try to how can you be like the best in the world at something, and then tell people about that. I love it when kids send me like pictures of cool art that they've done, or like I built this thing in ceramics class, and I'm interested in knowing all the things about you. But two things. One, not all coaches are. So like, don't be offended if people are like, I don't care about your art. They won't probably say that. And, also it has to hit at the right time. So don't be afraid. I guess the answer to your question is don't be the kid who writes like BCC emails every Tuesday night. Don't be the coach who encourages your kids to do that. But do communicate when you have something to say. And if you sent me an email on Friday and then want to tell me about a great game you had on Sunday night, do it. You can't control whether or not I read your emails anyway. So I think it's okay. Just like put your best self on the outside.
Kris, I learn a ton every time I talk to you. So grateful for your time and your inspiration. Kris Herman, head coach, Williams College Softball, 2021 inductee, NFCA Hall of Fame. This has been a lot of fun. Kris, thanks for your friendship and your support. Good luck the rest of the way this summer, and we'll be following from afar.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brendan. Good luck. Go Eves.